In this video, I'm going to document my visit to Cardington, which is the DVSA training headquarters for their examiners. Welcome to the video and thanks for watching. My name is Matt and this is the Go-To Driving School YouTube channel where you can pick up driving lesson videos, so tutorials, mock tests and general Q&A and videos like this really. So as I say, today's video is all about my visit to the DVSA training headquarters in Cardington. So why is this video relevant? Well, my very purpose for there to go to that day, it's in Bedford, for the drive down, take a day off work, was to further myself, my understanding of the driving test format, so I can share that information and knowledge with the learner driver community and try and keep myself at the top of my game. It's professional development, and so it's very worth an investment in myself. That's something that I would encourage you guys to think about strongly, is investing in yourself in terms of when you pick a driving instructor. This video is going to be all about the DVSA's approach to the driving tests, how the driving test is marked, and you might be surprised by some of my findings. So yeah, I mean, it was a long drive, it was about an hour and a half. I filled up with fuel beforehand and set the sat nav up, and so off I went. It was a nice day for a drive, really hot, but when we got there we got looked after. It was a really nice place, the staff there was great, it was a brilliant presentation, and again I'm going to share some of the notes that I made that day. The YouTube channel, how amazing is the way that this YouTube journey is connecting everything, because I went there and I think there was about 2 or 3 people that already knew me just through the YouTube channel, which is absolutely wonderful. So thanks for watching the video. We've just passed 12,000 subscribers as well, which is absolutely phenomenal. So if you've ever contributed in any way, if you ever liked my videos, commented, shared and subscribed, I thank you wholeheartedly. Right, so the DVSA sort of started by giving us a little bit of an overview as to what they've been up to, and they've just been saying that they've been busy. They've recruited around 500 new driving examiners in the last 2 years. Now, you might not remember if you're a learner driver, if you've been learning a while you might, but there was a time when the driving test waiting times was going up and up and up. I don't know if this is anything to do with the baby boom that we had in, supposed baby boom in year 2000, I'm not sure, but certainly the driving test waiting times was about 3 or 4 months in some cases. It was very hard to do driving lessons and sort of do it in a way where you'd know when to book the test, because you have to project a little bit. All the examiners are trained at Cardington. Cardington provides them with their own accommodation, vehicles to use, to training, lorries, bikes, and there's all sorts. And they've got proper road layout and everything, and it's all laid out so they can do all the training in-house. And I think once they get to a certain level, then they sort of go out and about a little bit more. They've got 4 trucks there, a minibus. They do motorbike training as well, and lorry training and things like that. They've got 20 motorbikes, 9 different types. Pretty detailed there. They was telling us about how to actually become an examiner. Even though they've took on 500 more, there might be room for some more. I sort of got that feel from them. I don't think it's something that I'll personally be getting into, because I feel that'd be a nice job to have. You get your paid holidays and your time off each year and all the rest of it, and it's set days. You aren't in control of your destiny. You aren't a business owner. You aren't an entrepreneur. And for me, that wouldn't personally be my cup of tea. But it's not a bad salary there. And if you want more information on how to become an examiner, you'll find information on the Gov website there. Their training course is really in depth. It starts with the selection process online, which kind of whittles it down, and a lot of that's situational judgment. So yeah, there's 2 modules to become an examiner. It currently takes between 3 months to a year to become a driving examiner. As soon as you start training, you are employed by the DVSA, and you can't be a driving instructor and an examiner at the same time. So when you start training, they'll take your badge back, but I believe that if you decide to stop, or you're not happy with the training and whatnot, they then give you the ability, or the legal license if you like, to teach, which is giving you your badge back, which is this badge right here, to say that you're a fully qualified instructor. It's pink for training instructors and it's green for fully qualified driving instructors. Yes, as I say, as soon as you start training, you are employed by the DVSA, which is pretty good. it's pretty good. You get paid while you train on the job. The DVSA said that the L test is a very basic level, which is mainly catered for safety, not finesse, which is why I can't stress enough to learner drivers, you need to stop worrying so much about how you do it. It's the outcome, the safety, and that's from the horse's mouth. The DVSA said as much, and that's why it's important that we keep developing ourselves and keep topping up the training. Like I've done some training recently with full license holders, and I really admire that, because that's somebody who understands that yes, I'm okay to drive by myself, but there's still loads of room for improvement, and that's how it should be really with everybody. But unfortunately most people tend to just put it down and just, yes, I can drive, or yeah, you know, I am the finished article. And I think in life that's impossible, isn't it? They was telling us that at each test centre there's a driving test centre manager that keeps everything in line, keeps everything as uniform as possible. There is in total 1,800 examiners in the UK. Now this was a bit of a funny one. I mean, because there was about 30 ADIs. ADIs are approved driving instructors. I think it was about 30 ADIs that went on the trip. Thanks to Martin, who organised the trip. It was a great day out, to be honest. It was a really good day. But they was so instructors was asking questions, you know, from based on their experience, and was asking about grumpy examiners, because we do get them, unfortunately. One of their main competencies is customer service, believe it or not. So if you're a learner driver watching, I know probably a few instructors will be watching this video, but if you're a learner driver watching the video, then if you don't feel that you've been given good customer service overall, the whole journey, remember you're paying £62 for 40 minutes, if you don't feel you've been given an appropriate debrief, things like this, then you have the grounds to say something. And they just reassured us and said that all the examiners get exactly the same training at Cardington. Many years ago it was said that examiners were like robots, and I can see there's some new examiners, particularly at my local test centre. Some of the ones that were there, I mean, I've only been doing the job for about 5 years now. It's 2018 as we speak. There's a lot of new faces. They are very friendly and very warming and very welcoming. And that's not to say that some of the older ones weren't, but I do see things that I didn't necessarily used to see. And I think it's good. I think it's good. It's a good way to go. Whether they're putting more emphasis on that, I don't know. It's just said that the examiners aren't there to fail customers, you know? They aren't there to fail them. There is a complaint procedure, and you should follow it through. And all you gotta do is a quick Google, and ultimately it's on the Gov website, but it'll find you the direct link if ever you've got any issues with any driving tests. So here's a list of the different training that they offer at the actual Cardington. They do motorbike examiners, bus examiners, ADI Part 2, Part 3, and the standards check. These are the qualifying processes to become a driving instructor. We got trainings becoming a local driving test centre manager, in what I just spoke about. They offer the Cardington special test, which isn't a pass or fail, but I think it's graded. It's gold, silver and bronze, and it's based on driving the essential skills. So if you're a decent driver out there and you fancy putting your driving skills to the test based on the DVSA's way of doing things, a bit different to ROSPA and I am, then you can get in contact with Cardington, and they will arrange for you to conduct a special test. You'd have to get used to Cardington a little bit, so I think it'd take quite a bit of prep, but it'd be quite a nice achievement, and it's something I wouldn't rule out for future endeavours. I quite like that under my belt. That'd be quite nice. They said the Cardington Gold equates to the same as ROSPA. If anybody's done ROSPA, then let me know how that is in the comments section below. Something I'm considering for future. I'd like to document it on this channel. I think they do CBT and ABT training. It is a driving test centre as well, and so I was a bit sort of, where shall I go? I don't want to disrupt any tests when I was driving in there, which was a bit surreal. It was a massive place, sort of tucked away a little bit. All the learning materials, so driving the essential skills, things like that, are all sort of taken around there, so I believe. The special test is around £160 to £170, I believe. So yeah, we had a bit of a break, and then we had an update from John Sheridan. We got some feedback about the practical test, learners on motorways, the ADI qualification process. It was really encouraging, you know, CPD, which is what that was really that day, continued professional development, you know, so investing in yourself, getting more knowledge, more information. We talked about audit, which is the official register of driving instructor trainers. Currently not something that I feel is beneficial enough. The general public aren't aware of it, so it's not going to be something that I will be investing in yet anyway. We talked about the qualification when you become a driving instructor, having a driver's record and a workbook, and the National Driver and Rider Standards document, and that's available for a free download from the Gov website also. So that's the National Driver and Rider Standards, and I definitely advise or recommend you to get a print off of that. Here is some statistics of the driving test pass rates in 2017. So for the theory test, 49% pass rate. For the practical test, a 46% pass rate. The driving test changes is to bring driving in line with real life driving. That was the reason for the changes last December. That's from the horse's mouth, the DVSA. And what did we have? We had the Bay Park, the ability now to drive in forwards. We had the pull over on the right, and we're now using a sat nav for 20 minutes, and we'll ask some questions on the move. So they come in last December. I think it was December the 4th, 2017. Okay, so this section's of the videos just going to touch on more so driving instructors a little bit. What's been said now, and I think it's probably long overdue, I don't see it as a bad thing at all, is that we're going to have ADI enforcement officers, and this is somebody who works closely with our local test centres, who is going to be made aware of any, what's the word, should we say rogue driving instructors? I'm just going to put it out there, it's true. We've all got them locally, people who really just aren't really that bothered and just, you know, sort of lower the standard and public perception for the rest of us. So, you know, if somebody keeps taking customers to driving tests who consistently aren't ready and are dangerous and who are putting the examiner's life at risk, for example, then they will be not dealt with, but there's something now there to sort of prevent that from continuing, if you like, and it's going to feed in relation with the standards check. In 2010, there were 47,000 approved driving instructors on the register. In 2017, there is only 39,413. Now, the qualification process has changed, if you didn't know already, and that could well be something to do with it. All driving instructors are graded. Now, as of the latest ones published, it's now 2018. I think these was sometime towards the end of 17, I may be wrong. We had 8,939 grade A's and 18,803 grade B's. Now, a grade A is an instructor who has hit a certain target, a certain number, in terms of the criteria that we're assessed against. Periodically, driving instructors will do a standards check, and this will assess them again against these 17 criteria. Main categories are risk management, teaching and learning strategies, and lesson planning. All instructors will have a 6-month invite before they actually take their standards check. So if you're a learner driver watching this, I guess there's loads of information here that you wouldn't already know. Some of you may find it useful, some of you may not. So either way, again, let me know what your thoughts are in the description below. We had some dinner and then we went out for the coach trip. Now, what was really interesting, on the right here, we had the house for an airship from World War I. There's a bit of history there. I think one of the warships actually crashed. Again, if you want to dig up the article on Google, then you can. Also, these big units there are used for concerts, filming films. I think they've recently used one of them for the new Dumbo film. They've also got lots of private tracks for training, as I say, for examiner training and things like that, for lorry training, CBT, so that examiners can take action for the first time, you know, when you'd grab the steering wheel and things like that and use the dual controls. It's a very controlled situation. There's not going to be, you know, surrounding traffic. DVSA have their own training car park, their own training cars. They're all dual controlled, of course. So it's all fit for purpose. You can set up their own scenarios and things like that. After the coach trip, we had a presentation from Bill Pope, who's the head of publishing. So they publish things like the highway code, know your traffic signs. There's a whole list of books that normally got the blue cover, apart from I can think of one like the green one, Know Your Traffic Signs. It's Crown copyright. There's 14 people as part of the team. I actually think the book's getting better and better. I spoke about the Driving the Essential Skills before. If you're interested in driving the essential skills, a book about this thing. In fact, I'll show you. But I really rate the book. I think it's a really good book. If you are taking the Cardington special test, this is something that you need to know inside out. A recent book that they've just published as well is DVSA's Guide to Better Driving, and this is an absolute gem, this one. It's all about more of the psychological aspects of driving, the thoughts, the feelings, emotions, and how you can channel those and understand them and analyse things, and there's reflection tools and things like that. So that was quite interesting. Another interesting bit was we talked about the CGI clips now that are on the theory test, because they do all the theory tests. I actually learned that you can buy the rights to use the questions as well if you set up your own app. But you just have to word them slightly different. One of the main reasons they started using the CGI clips is because they could manipulate it to do whatever they wanted. And what I learned was before, they sometimes had to close roads off, get people to stand around corners and things like that. It was quite a dangerous task potentially. So that was really interesting there to hear more about that and how they and what they do and who does it, because I've used a lot of these things before, and I dare say a lot of you guys have as well. Now let's move on to the examiner marking. This was really interesting. This is the way that examiners training is generally mapped out when they go and stay at Cardington for the training. So week 1 will generally be control, driving development in terms of their control. Week 2, routes, timing and directions. So timing and giving instruction and things like that, and how they assess things. It isn't as black and white as giving a fault, and there's lots of things that go into it being an actual driving fault. When I do mock tests and things like that, I can now apply this. It's some things that are classed as a non-worthy fault, and again, it's like situational. It depends on things around how wrong was it only just off perfect, was it one thing and another thing, is it worth the driving fault? It's hard for me to actually explain, and it seemed like quite a complicated process to wrap your head around. It's a completely different way of assessing it than a driving instructor would, you see. What I tend to do on the mock test is if I think something needs raising, it'll be a good opportunity for me to let that person know regardless. So if I'm doing a mock test, I might mark something that I know necessarily wouldn't get marked on a driving test, just because it could, on a different day in a different situation, be more serious, and I want that person to be alerted, and that we can use the mock test as a learning opportunity to have that conversation, you know. So basically, circumstances matter. They said that, you know, the standard on an L test is safety and less focus on finesse. Here's an example of a non-worthy driving fault. You pull up on the left, you're braking, and your clutch goes down a little bit late, and the car judders a bit. It's not correct, is it? But it's not a driving fault, you see what I mean? The way it was put to us was examiners can also change their mind on a driving test. I didn't know that. Examiners can change their mind as long as the driving test isn't finished. They also have their own rules and tools. A little way of remembering that. Rules and tools, and have a standard that will allow learners to make mistakes, which is always going to happen, isn't it? Let's aim for perfect, but let's face it, such a thing doesn't exist, does it? We was asking, would a test on a motorway ever exist? It just isn't possible, because some test centres don't have a motorway for a long time, you know, before they actually would get onto one and then get back. Another thing to note is examiners aren't classed as a supervising driver. They are classed as an accompanying driver, which is important, you know, when you think about insurance and things like that. So that's why they aren't allowed to drive back after driving tests. So it is good to get your instructor to sit in on the back of driving tests for many reasons. It's classed as an observer in the back of your driving test, so definitely think about that. And another thing was, there's now talk of them using tablets instead of actually written marking sheets for the driving test. So here we've got, so this is the way it goes. Firstly, we've got a no driving fault. Next, we've got a non-worthy fault. Next, we've got a driving fault. Next, we've got a serious fault, and next we've got a dangerous fault, okay? And again, the examiners can't drive the cars for insurance purposes, and that's why they call it a walk back, because the examiner will always walk back and hope they see a driving instructor will pick them up on the way back. and drop them near the test centre. So what was an interesting insight for me, because I was unsure, you know, it's not as black and white as you can or can't cross the lines when bay parking. You can cross the lines as long as it's reasonable, basically. Okay, so that was my trip to Cardington. Very, very useful day. Thank you to everybody at Cardington who made the day great. Thanks to all the driving instructors who was there. Some great questions asked. I would definitely recommend to anybody who hasn't been there, if there's any other trips going, then do get yourself on that. It was on one of the Facebook forums. I can't remember which one it was. Don't pay all that much attention to them in that much detail. Thank you for watching the video. If you did like the video, like it, give it a thumbs up, and consider sharing it with some friends. Subscribe for weekly videos. Hit the bell notification for instant updates in your email for every time I release a video. My name's Matt, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.